See it now?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. That's my number 48. Repeat. So you've got this. The community is mostly it says homogeneous, racially separate community. So it's fine if the Haitians live on the other side, but it's not okay if they live on this side. Okay. So the agency approaches would be to seek to build bridges between the opposing groups when feasible, but ally the agency with the principle of diversity because it's the core social work value. So we support diversity. We're going to support the group that supports diversity. The answer to that one is 1. Okay. Number 49. Last year, Maryville Hospital determined that the community supported developing a new senior citizens program and health center. The hospital is now ready to develop the program. The worker assigned to develop the community support might first, again, a first question, if at all possible, whether it's this or anything else, I'm always going to assess. Okay, so what should I do? One, investigate impediments to the plan and develop new, cogent, supportive arguments. 2, revisit the issue and canvass community groups in the area to see if they can support and be mobilized to obtain their involvement. 3, some testimonials from respected member of the community to demonstrate community interest. Or 4, limit participation in addition to fact-finding, developing a convincing case. Okay, so let's look at this. So it happened last year. They decided that they wanted a new senior citizen center. Now the hospital's ready. They probably just got the money. So the worker assigned to develop the support might. Okay. It was a year ago. I probably want to see if it's still an issue. So 2, revisit the issue and canvass community groups in the area to see if support can be mobilized. Because it was a year ago. Definitely things change in a year. Okay. Number 50. Okay. And just like the answer for 51, an ad hoc committee. Ad hoc really means add-on. Okay, so sometimes it's a group of community members that I want their opinion, but they don't work for the agency. They usually don't have any long-term buy-in. So that's my ad hoc committee. 50, a community appointed to accomplish a single function within a specific period without permanent reference to the formal committee structure. A large organization is usually, and that is my ad hoc committee, okay? So you'll see a single function with a specific period of time without permanent reference. So if I'm an ad hoc committee, so if a committee is happening and they need more people, they're looking for more input, they may ask you to join the committee. You don't work for the agency, you don't have any buy-in, you just really kind of want to volunteer your time and make a change in this area. That's my ad hoc committee. Okay. Number 51, a nonprofit organization such as the Lions Club or Community Betterment Association devoted to servicing the community or to promoting specific community programs or activities are generally called what? Are they 1, social welfare agencies, 2, social clubs, 3, settlement houses, or 4, civic associations? What are those? '51. Those are 4. Those are civic associations. So nonprofits, the Lions Club. I don't know if you have a Lions Club in your area. Many times they are just members of the community who want to make the community a better place. So in our area, they actually do the glasses. They support the buying glasses for indigent families. Anybody else have that in their area, the Lions Club? Good. Thanks for sharing. 52. A neighborhood coordinator in a welfare department finds it possible to be effective only when relating in different ways to clients and staff of the welfare department. The worker's change of attitude and conversation in dealing with these very different groups is, okay, and is it appropriate or inappropriate? So she works in the welfare office, and when she comes in, she talks to people differently. Okay. The answer is 4. It's appropriate. Okay. And I think all of us in our lives, we probably talk differently to people in our home than we would at our office or my friends, as opposed to my students, right? We all kind of have that. Okay. That happens often. The answer to that one is 4. The term for that is called code switching. Has anyone ever heard that? And sometimes we often will use it with a certain dialect that you only kind of speak those terms with people, or things that you would definitely only say in your family. I'm African American, of course, and sometimes there's terminology that we don't use outside of our family. But code switching really is like learning to use certain language, certain terminology in certain populations. Okay, so when I am working with a family of color, there are terms that I might use that I may not use with a family that is not of color. There's verbiage that I would use with maybe a upper middle class family that some of my families of lower socioeconomic status may not understand. And that's the term. It's just called code switching. So it kind of lets us know with this population, this is kind of how I need to behave or act. So it's not a bad thing. I think many of us as social workers, that when we're talking to our clients, especially depending on what fields you work in, I don't want to use verbiage. I want to give the greatest respect to my clients. I want them to be. I respect where they are. One of the agencies that I consult with are men who've just been recently released from prison. So I do some substance abuse consultation with those agencies. And a lot of the guys that I work with and I work with mostly white men, and many of them have been using drugs since they were very, very young. And what I know is that when you begin to use drugs, many times, and you all know that, many times those frontal lobes, those reasoning parts of the brain, have some difficulty, developing. Also, they probably missed a whole lot of school. So I'm not going to use words that would make them feel stupid. That's not what I want to do. So my verbiage changes when I'm working with that population, and that's called just code switching. That's what we should do. Comments, thoughts? I'm going to keep trying in case you can't tell. So I'm hoping you'll chime in. It's okay. 53. A basic assumption of community practice does not include the idea that what? A basic assumption. Does not. And for those of you on the test, I have sometimes you have difficulty with the not questions. So the way that I try to read them is, 3 of these do include the idea. So 3 of these do. Which one of these doesn't fit? And especially if I don't know the answer at all, then I'm trying to figure out which one of these is different. Okay. So 1, a person should participate. Oh, I got an answer there. Got a 4. Let's see here. Basic assumption, the community practice does not include the idea that 4, the redistribution of resources and opportunities have limited importance in the determination and maintenance of community change. That is correct. Okay. Virtually all community social work practice engages problems in an inadequate resource and unequal amounts of power. That is it. 54. The role of the social worker in the social planning model, your planning, remember, does not normally include what? Okay. Fact gathering, the developmental of problem-solving approaches, an analysis, or a negotiator. You're planning. What are you not doing? What, a 4? Yes, you're right. Great. You're a negotiator. You don't negotiate. 55, the model of community organization that is most likely to use conflict strategies is what? Conflict strategies. What do you think? And for many social workers, conflict is something that we don't use a lot. We don't do that. So, okay. So 54 is 4. Okay, we're not going to negotiate anything. We're not doing anything to negotiate. We're just analyzing. We're just working on the facts. Okay. One second. Sorry, I just have a text there about someone in the group. Make sure I got them. Okay, so then 55, the model of community organization. Oh, I did that one. Okay. Enter 55. 55 was 3, social action. Okay, so social action. We're doing some locality development because it's local. We'll do some social planning, and we'll also do some community development. Okay. How about 57? In linking the community with the agency, the worker is assuming the role of, if you're linking, what are you doing?
One.
Yes, you're a broker. Good, very good. I always think of the stockbroker. I know all of you have money. I may not, but you probably have a good stockbroker who kind of, decides where the money's going to go, and he's linking things. Good. How about 58? Rents have risen rapidly in response to a growing housing shortage. As a result, homelessness has increased as rents have soared. Many in the community are unaware of the extent to which families are being forced to move out of their homes. A community-based housing association hires a social worker to plan a campaign to secure rent control law. The social worker would probably first recommend, it's still a first question. Okay, so it's still a first question. So, and my first question is, if at all possible, I'm going to assess. That may not be the option, but if it is, I'm going to assess. So 58. Answer is 4.
4.
You got it. You got it. It is 4. Got it. Without public awareness of the housing problem, it'd be difficult to mobilize the support to change it. So landlords or banks, they're probably not going to support this, right? They need the money. They want their money. They're not interested in that. So 4 is the answer. Very good. Very good. Okay. Go down to 61. A neighborhood planning board linked to the municipal administration completed a community study. Their conclusion indicated that the community had rising rates of alcoholism, drug use, and HIV/AIDS, and a higher infant mortality rate than other areas in the city. Juvenile delinquency was rising, and there were a few recreational outlets for adolescents. The study found that residents had inadequate access to primary health care, and there were no prevention programs to address the community's health problems. The recommended model of a health center and new after-school and evening programs for adolescents. This is an example of what? What is this? Is it social planning, social analysis, community development, or for citizen involvement? What is this? I got a 3. I got a 2. Anybody else?
No, I take that back. I take it back.
Okay, then what do you want it to be?
I don't know. 3.
It's
What?
one. It's one. That's
Oh,
just
well,
social
never mind.
planning. Okay. So, social planning involves the systematic study of the community, and you develop the programs. Okay. So that's what happened. So they studied the community. They indicated they had high rates of alcoholism, drug use, and HIV, and high infant mortality rate. So then all they're doing is planning. Okay. We're not doing anything yet. It's the research, it's the piece. So you'll find those questions on the test. You really want to make sure that, they're just planning. And I don't mean just planning, but I'm looking for action if it's anything else. Okay. 62. A social welfare organization may involve consumers of their services in an advisory capacity or in planning of services. And unintended consequences is what? Okay, so an example with this would be is if I am, we are working for a one of the community service agencies, and we decide that we're going to add our customers or our consumers onto our advisory board. So what might be a unplanned or unintended consequence? So 62 is 2. Okay. So 1, 3, and 4 are already intended consequences. The other one is things that weren't intended. Organizations that employ participation have no interest in helping individuals have their own power in the community. Okay. So the issue is, many times you get people in the community to be involved, and they may use that as a platform for their own beliefs, their own, whatever they're working for. But that's not the plan. The plan is just to have them involved in the decision-making process. Okay. 63. In community organization practice, a worker might emphasize collaboration between parties to achieve a particular strategy or change when there is a, when would I do that? 63? When do I want collaboration the most? One is issue dissonance, the census, they don't agree. 2, issue difference. 4, issue negotiation, or I'm sorry, 3, issue negotiation, or 4, issue consensus. 63 would be 4. That is 4. Okay. Okay. Go down a little bit. Oops, sorry. There we go. So 67, the model most closely associated with the association of the tenants association is which model would be most associated with the activities of the tenants association? So sometimes the tenants will get together and form association to kind of fight against the landlord, especially if they think he is not doing what he should do. So tenants association, you live in one building, it'd be very a close community organization, and that would be 1. In helping to organize an organized group of tenants, the worker employed would use locality development. Okay, so social planning and locality development is not necessarily what you do with the tenants. Okay, social action really might be something that you'd have to do at some point, and social planning, of course, is the bigger issue, but this is a local issue. And on the test, that's how you would know, because that's just the tenants. So it's not trying to change the laws or change anything huge. It's just my local area. I just want to have water or heat or any of those things. Okay. 69, a program activity not considered as primary in community development is what? What is not a primary? What is not one of my main concerns in community development? That would be 4. Okay. In community development, I'm not really looking at social protest. I'm just trying to make my community a better place. Social protest goes with social reform and changing things, changing laws. So it may happen, but that's not my primary concern. Okay. Number 70. A social worker in a neighborhood center is helping a group of parents concerned about low educational achievement levels among their children. The worker helps the group establish an after-school tutoring and recreational program. The worker is employing what? What is that happening with that worker? Is that a social action method, a community development method, an administrative method, or a planning method? Oh, I got a response. A 2? That is correct. It is 2. Okay. So service creation usually falls within the community development model. You got it. Okay. 71, an example of social action that uses a confrontational or contest method is what? This is my social action that uses confrontation or a contest model. What was 69? I'll go back, I'm sorry. 69 was 4. A program activity not considered as primary community development is social protest. Okay. And 70 was number 2. That's a community development method. And now we're on 71. Okay. 71 is, oh, I got an answer there. 71 is 4. Okay. So example of social action that uses confrontational or contest method is 4. A group of welfare recipients sitting in at the local welfare center to an attempt to change policies. Okay. That would be confrontational. And for many of us, especially in the direct practice, confrontation is something we don't use a lot. That's something that in social policy, we're trying to change communities. And most often we're the advocate for the people that can't speak. As in the other questions we saw, people have the power and the money, sometimes really don't care about the other half. They care about making sure that their kids get to the best schools, and those schools are getting the best education. So we really believe in social justice, and if that means that we have to, do some confrontation on behalf of our clients, that might be the best choice for us. How about 72? A worker from a family agency is assigned to meet with a group of mothers from a nearby housing development. Many mothers want and need to work, but they have no means of caring for their children while they work. Several are interested in developing a cooperative child care center. In working with the group, the social worker would most appropriately assume the role of what? What would she do? It's not a bad word. She's an enabler. Yes, she's enablers. Number 2, she's enabling. Not a bad word. Of course, when it comes to like substance abuse, that's not what we want to do. But in this case, the worker is facilitating the group's movement towards solving the problem. That is a general, the general term is enabling. I'm helping it happen. I'm making it happen. Okay. So, questions about community organization? If not, I'm going to go to talk about some social policies. Okay. We talked a little bit of this already. So number 5, Medicare Part A does not include what? And surely you've watched enough TV to know what. Oh, you don't have that? Perhaps you should buy our additional program because it provides all these extra services that you might not get from regular Medicare. Okay. So yes, the answer to number 5 is 4. It does not include payment of all hospitals, medication, nursing home, or outpatient medical services. So then if you need those additional services, then you'll have to purchase it. So many times you'll see commercials where it says you have to buy this. This is for sale. I've got this. All those great things. Okay. Number 6. A social worker is asked to provide treatment for a woman with whom he had an intimate relationship years ago. He should what? It's a code of ethics question. What does he do? Correct. 3. Suggests it would be inappropriate and unethical for him to treat her and urge her to find another clinician. So the code of ethics does not say that I cannot sleep with or cannot do this. It says I should not. So be very careful about that. The only time it says I cannot with an absolute is a current client. I cannot be involved with a current client. Cannot. The other ones say should not. And then it talks about if I do, then what the repercussions would be, and immediately it lies on me. Okay? So in general, we all know my rule has always been, if I've seen you naked, I can't be your therapist. However, the Code of Ethics says I can, if that's the case, but I should not. Okay? Let's look at number 7. Systems theory. According to systems theory, public assistance, Medicaid, social services, and food stamps are considered what? Are they throughputs, inputs, social justice, or social investments? I actually put this on my Facebook page today because I was tutoring with someone. So let's kind of show you this. There we go. Okay. So this is the systems theory. And what we know with family systems theory is everything is a system and everything works together. Normal subsystems would be the parents, the mom and dad together, and then the children would be normal subsystems as well. So what we know is a closed system. So if this mom and dad and son and daughter, if they never let anyone in, at some point the kids didn't marry anybody, they still lived in the same house, mom and dad would die off. And if the kids did not marry and procreate, the whole system would die off, right? So a closed system entropies, E-N-T-R-O-P-H-Y, entropy. Negative entropy is a good thing, okay? But input is from the environment, and output is what they do. So the input would be the school, the family, the church, the dad and mom's job. All of those things are input. And of course, my output is what these families give out back to the rest of society. So that's my systems model. Okay, let's go back to that question then. According to systems theory, public assistance, Medicaid, social services, and food stamps are considered what? In that family, what would that be? They're not outputs. Yes, thank you. They're inputs. Exactly. So this family is in need of certain things. Those are things I'm inputting into the family. The goal, of course, is if I input them, the output would grow, right? So if I put all these services in the home, the output would be something productive. Good, thanks, good job. Okay, let's see here. How about number, let's see here. Number 11, a means-tested program is what? I know someone in the group does some TANF stuff, so you know what means-tested means. My means is how I pay my bills. My means is how much money I got. So means tested means number 3. You got to prove my financial need. You got it, Trish. Good job. Improve my financial need. Okay. So do I have the means to pay the bills? Okay. Number 13, we touched on this one earlier a little bit. TANF. So temporarily assistance to needy families is a what? What is that? So we know it's
3.
Repeat.
Is it 3?
It is 3, exactly. We know it's not financed totally from the state because it comes from the feds, and it's not totally financed by the feds because the state has to do some input. So it is 3. Okay, it replaced AFDC. Okay, so I'm going to just share a little bit. So my husband grew up in the projects. He went to college based with a football scholarship, but his siblings did not. So we would go to visit, and this was before kind of the change. So his younger sisters both had children, probably the age of 13 or 14. So they were getting, at this time, lots of cash, lots of food stamps, lots of cash. And we'd go to visit. And I had a master's degree. I'd worked my way in a master's degree. And I would go in and they would have like all the like expensive cereals. And I'm like, we can't afford that. Oh my gosh, we can't afford that. So with AFDC, there wasn't a lot of constraints. That all you had to do was kind of be a single mom or a single person, and you would get lots of money. And so neither one of my them, my sister-in-laws had to work. They had several kids, so they certainly got a large money. So it was difficult for me because I'm working with my master's degree and still couldn't afford all those expensive cereals. And back in the day, and even now, like Fruit Loops were like $5 a box, and my kids could eat a box in a day. So I'd share that with you. How about number 15, a block grant? A block grant is federal money, which what? And if you don't know, so there's 2 kind of grants. There are grants that are block grants, and there are grants that are category grants. My categorical grant tells me how I have to spend the money. And I like the cheese analogy. If I get a block of cheese and someone says, Pam, all you have to do is, use this block of cheese to feed people. I can make macaroni. I can make grilled cheese. I can make 1,000 things. But a categorical grant says, Pam, you can only do this. So you put you into categories. So a block grant is what? 15? So my block grant is 1. Requires few specifications and allows for a high degree of local autonomy. So I'm going to give you this huge amount of money, and I'm going to tell you all you have to do is this. Okay? Not much, just do this. So most agencies will apply for block grants because they're definitely a lot easier to deal with. Okay? Let's go down to 16. The fastest growing component of the federal assistance programs are, and I mentioned this earlier. Anybody be brave? Yes, it's my food stamps. It's the largest growing is food stamps. And again, because TANF is temporary temporary assistance to needy families. SSI is what? Anyone? It's supplemental Social Security. That one is based on income. Okay. Social Security disability is based on me having a disability and what I've paid in. Okay. And dialysis, that has nothing to do with our federal government. So the answer to that one, to 17, is 3, food stamps. Good, good. Number 18, A social worker seeks continuing cash assistance for an indigent client who's recently lost his vision after a serious automobile accident. She would refer the client to where? 18. Yes. Oh, I got my person who knows the policies. Thank you, Trish. It is 1. Social Security income, my SSI. Okay. And my SSI would, if the client has an employment history, they would be eligible for SSDI. That would be my disability. However, if they've not ever worked, it would be SSI. Okay. Let's look down. Okay. Number 22. A program that is neither supervised nor administered by a state agency is what? That one is 4. Social Security is a federal government, part of a federal government. Okay, that's the feds. So it is neither supervised nor administered by a state agency. So if you go, I'm pretty sure all of you have a Social Security office in your area, and that's the feds, not state. Okay. 8 to 23. I talked just a minute ago about a categorical grant. That means all these categories, these rules I have to follow. So 23, a categorical grant, what? 1, has guidelines established by the federal government with state specifications of criteria of money distribution. 2, is funded solely by the state and local government. 3, is usually given for a general rather than a specific purpose. Or 4, does not require matching funds. Okay. 23 is 1. Has guidelines, state specifications, there are all those rules. If I get a categorical grant, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to follow all those rules. Okay. So in line with this is in-kind, in-kind grant or in-kind assistance. You know what that means? Oh. In-kind can be anything but cash. Okay. So many times people will donate food, they will donate anything. It can be anything but cash. Okay. I'm trying to find an analogy there, but so if I give an in-kind donation, that might be food, it might be time, it might be any of those things. It just is not a cash gift. That's an in-kind. Okay. Actually, I'll put that link in the chat box. You'll know where I'm in-kind. But that's really kind of what it means. It's just anything but my cash. And sometimes when you get a grant, your agency may say you have to match your grant with in-kind, or even so for the amount of money they're giving you, then you have to kind of come up with that much of the equivalent value in kind. Put that link in the chat box there, though. Okay. Okay, so let's look at number 25. A married supervisor develops an intimate relationship with a supervisee. Indicate the statements that best reflect the underlying principle that should be involved. Okay, 25. So what happens if you are a supervisee or supervisor and you just happen to fall in love with your student?
3.
Ah, very good. Okay. You got it. You got it. Okay. The behavior is disruptive, and if the supervisor persists, it should be terminated. How about 4? Could that not be an option?
Possibly.
Yeah, that's the answer. Okay. 4 is the best answer. The behavior is exploitive and violates professional ethics. So I am, and I teach college, and I had one of my students at our internship that she and her supervisor decided that they wanted to be intimate. It's our local sexual assault treatment center. So there's like, it's ran by a lot of lawyers, policemen are there. Not necessarily a lot of social workers, but he was a social worker. And I said to him, "You can't do that. You just can't do that." So my job was to protect my client, my student. So I moved her to a different agency. But you can't do that. Not okay. So 27. Food stamps and Medicaid are examples of categorical grants, block grants, in-kind assistance, or grants in aid. What is 27?
4.
27 is 3. In kind, no cash. Non-cash services such as food stamps and Medicaid are offered instead of cash assistance for the same services. They're defined as in kind. Okay, so as long as there's no cash involved, it's in kind. Okay, 28. An example of a program that reflects a social investment. What is that one? A social investment. Good, guys. 28 would be 3. Social investment programs are designed to prevent problems from developing. Okay, so if I make sure that the people have prenatal care, then the odds of having a healthy baby go up, right? And that was definitely less taxation on our society. How about 29? The social worker's legal and ethical obligations is to act quickly to involuntarily hospital a client when what? The client's relatives request hospitalization. That'd be great, wouldn't it? You'd just say, hello, you know what? My husband's getting on my nerves. You think you'd come like pick him up? Or my kid's getting on my nerves. Yeah, I don't think that's the way it works. So 29 is 2. They are likely to deliberately or accidentally cause harm to themselves or others. Okay. 33. A major problem with managed care HMOs services for the chronically mental ill patients is what? And a lot of you that work in this field should be able to answer that one. What's the problem? HMOs, how they get paid. HMOs do not provide mental health care services. Not true. Number 2, HMOs can provide excellent case management but poor clinical services. Not true. Number 3, clients need longer-term supportive services are rarely able to access the services in managed health organizations. That's an option. And 4, payment for service is slow and inadequate. The truth is that Medicaid payments are less than reasonable and customary. And if you have a pretty good billing system, they really should not be slow. Okay, so the answer would be 3. Okay. Clients need more. The HMO manages how many sessions they get. It manages, what happens. So if you, insurance companies are about making a profit. So they want to make a profit. So they want the client seen as quickly and as cheaply as possible. Okay. So 15, WIC. Everybody knows that one surely. WIC is what? Chime in. What's WIC? Exactly. WIC is number 2, a federal state program that seeks to ensure proper nutrition for mothers and infants. Okay. 36, what's the difference between WIC and welfare? A distinguishing characteristic of public assistance or welfare is that it's means tested. That means it's determined on how much money I make. Okay. So you don't qualify if you make above the poverty standards in your community. And those also are definitely set by your state, because many of us, depending on where you live, the poverty level changes. Okay. Number 38, a federally supported medical insurance payment program that provides health services for the elderly is what? $38 is 2. Medicare. We care for the elderly. That's how I remember. We care for the elderly. Okay. And 39, we ducked it probably this a minute ago. The residual perspective on social welfare stresses the idea that what? Residual. Residual means that everybody doesn't get it. That would be number 1. Social welfare programs are designed as a safety net for people who are incapable of benefiting from normal market services or other government programs. Okay, so residual, and certainly that the goal of residual was that you're having a rough time, you can get through this, but let's kind of help you through the rough patch. Okay. 40. Before the Social Security Act and the development of federal programs for the elderly, state non-contributory old age programs consistently what? Before Social Security Act, what happened before? Sorry about that. What happened before is 3. Required destitution, poverty, state residency, and contribution from relative if relative is feasible. So before the Social Security Act was passed, that's what happened. Okay. I'm going to go to 47. The feature of a block grant is that they tend to what? 47 is my block grant. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, the call. Someone tried to join.
I can hear the.
Okay, so I was on 47. The feature of a block grant.
Can you put the questions back up?
Oh, I can. I'm sorry. Somebody tried to call in, and that's what happens. You see it now?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me know that. 47. The feature of a block grant. That's my block of cheese. I can make whatever I want to with my block of cheese.
It's on just the answers. It's all I'm seeing
You
are
have
answers.
the answers on.
Yeah, and you have a box in the middle.
Okay, let me switch again. Sorry, thank you very much for sharing. I'm sharing my own screen. Let me share again. Better?
There it is. Okay.
Thank you, thank you. It's 47. My block grant is 1. Increases competition between social service organizations for funds at the local and state levels of government. Okay. So that is what I want to do, is because if I have a block grant, more people want it. Categorical grants are hard. You got to work hard to follow the rules. So that is 1. Okay. Let's look at 50. The need for family education and support services for very young mothers increased between the middle 1970s and today because there's a significant increase in the number of what? What happened in the 70s that's different today? 50, the number is 4. The incidence of teen births has not significantly shifted, but there's a major change in the attitude. Rather than placing their babies up for adoption, many young mothers of all races are deciding to raise their children. So that just kind of how society has shifted, because at some point it was looked down upon to have a baby out of wedlock, and society has changed. Okay, and that's the difference between 1970s and today. 51, the number of conditions under which a social worker is not required by law to maintain confidentiality. Select the state below which is the most correct in describing instances in which confidentiality is not required. It's not required. Okay. I will tell you, if you're going to sue me, that I get to use that information. That's not okay. If you're going to tell me that I didn't do the right thing, then I can break confidentiality. That is number 1. So 51 is a number 1. Okay. Yeah, don't try to sue me for malpractice. I don't think so. Okay. 54. Mental health policy emphasizes reducing inpatient services. As a result, many facilities for the mentally ill have closed and community-based services have expanded. This policy is known as, and I told this earlier, what's that called? That is called deinstitutionalization, because we're going to kick them out of the building, out of the institute. That is 2. Okay. 56. An insurer asks a social worker to fax a client record to enable them to determine if the treatment should be reimbursed. Social worker should. So we know that most of our clients, other than our indigent clients, are paying through insurance, right? So the insurance company calls and says, hey, you know what? Can you kind of tell me what's going on with this client? So what do?
Number 4.
Yes, perfect. And ask their permission first. Many people may not choose to share their information. And now we certainly have we have the digital record. So when I go to my doctor, she can tell me like every medication I've ever taken. So they may choose not to bill their insurance because that way no one knows. If you're paying cash, no one knows. Okay, good. 57. The customary designation of 65 as the beginning of old age and eligibility for retirement benefits under Social Security has been changed to reflect new conditions. Discussions about raising the age of full eligibility of Social Security benefits reflects concerns about what? And I can tell you that as I'm getting older, I get letters that say, if you retire now, you'll get no money. But if you retire 27 years from now, you'll get this. So the fact that our baby boomer population is getting older, we're definitely trying to change those rules. So what do we want to do? Discussion about raising the age. I got a 3. Anybody else?
One.
It is 1. Reducing the cost of Social Security and responding to the increase in the lifespan that's occurred since the initiation of Social Security. And that's exactly it. So what? So the lifespan has gotten older. So we have these
Tyler,
baby
get
boomers.
the stuff together. Get your chair in there. Give him some.
Mute yourself.
Get
Just
my
mute
flat
yourself.
iron from under the thing, and I'll be ready.
Thanks for sharing, but mute yourself. You can talk to your kids or your dog or your people.
I'm sorry.
It's quite all right. We don't mind. So the issue is, though, really kind of the workforce is getting older. So mine says if you retire by 67, this is what will happen. I mean, it gets older and older at each time because we're just living longer. Okay. So 58. In discussion of policies and programs, some authors such as Kahn and Cameraman have suggested the U.S. develop a comprehensive approach to children and family similar to the Western European nations. They call what? And you don't have to know who Kahn and Cameraman are. They aren't major players in our on the test. The answer to that one is 3. The idea of a family policy, a comprehensive system of benefits and programs for families designed to protect their ability to care for their children, the elderly, or the ill, was advanced as an 80s and early policy initiative. And it's pretty common in other European nations. Okay. 59. As federal insurance program that insures mothers and young children against the loss of the breadwinner is called what? You know it's not food stamps because that's a residual program based on income. Child welfare benefits. I don't think that's it. TANF.
I think it's 2.
It is 59 is actually 1. It's survivor's benefits. Okay. My husband died about 4 years ago. My youngest one is still under 18, so we get survivor's benefits. Okay. And that helps me raise her because he's not around anymore. So we'll look at number 63. The largest number of persons receiving public assistance in most states are who? Who gets the largest number? $63 is 2. My kids. That's where it goes. My kids. Okay. 64. During the last 10 years, the number of children placed in foster care has what? In the last 10 years.
I want to say 2. I'm gonna go with 2. No, I take that back. I take it back. 1. Or neither.
I think we can't hear her again.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I wonder if she can hear us.
I don't know. But what you guys think? Would you say 1 or 3? 1 or
Okay.
2?
You hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Sorry. I could hear you. You just couldn't hear me. Okay. So then, 65. What do you think?
64.
64.
I'm sorry. So 64 was 2. You're correct on that one.
Okay.
Okay. 65 then.
An important consequence.
The last 90 years. $65 is a 4. Social work engagement in social reform is less significant today than it was. Okay. So we do more of clinical issues as opposed to reform. Okay. 66. A change in social work theory from viewing the individual mainly in the context of forces in the environment to perceive people mainly as products of unconscious or learned responses reflects a shift in orientation from what? Unconscious, I always think what? Freud. Learned responses, social learning. Those are the things that I automatically think of when I hear those words. The change in the social work theory from viewing the individual mainly in the context of the forces in their environment into perceiving people as products of the unconscious or learned responses reflects a change from what orientation? That's 2. Social reform and social policy changes to techniques of individual and group treatment. So 66 is 2. Okay. Okay. 70. A major feature of programs that have a selective rather than a universal perspective. Okay. Universal is everybody. Selective is only those few. So 70. Look at that one. $70. Any brave takers out there?
Say 2.
Well, I'm gonna go with 2.
2. I say
70 is 2. Oh, you get my bell.
I got 2.
Yeah, 70 is 2. Good job. It is 2. You are correct. Very good. 71. In the Education for All Handicapped Children Act of 1975, the responsibility of providing appropriate education for children with physical challenges and learning disabilities was given primarily to who? It's
Local
3. It's the local education agencies. And that was often makes it very difficult because you'll find, I don't know about in your area, but people will have to end up suing their school system because they didn't provide the appropriate services, because it really stops with the local education, the local school board. So it's just things that we thought were happening maybe often didn't happen. And it really is a matter of going back to your school system. Okay. 72, we talked about this a little bit before. Difference between Medicare and Medicaid is what?
Medicare is authorized under federal law, while Medicaid is authorized by individual states. The federal government administers Medicare.
What was your answer? 72. The difference is, what was your answer?
I
I have a
think it's
1. Go ahead.
isn't 1 and 2 kind of saying the same thing? What's the difference between
Yeah.
the two?
Okay, so 72 is 2. Medicare is administered by the state and designed for the medically indigent. Medicare is an entitlement program. Okay, so 1 says Medicare is authorized under federal laws, while Medicaid is authorized by individual states. Number 2 says the federal government administers Medicare, while the states administer Medicaid. Okay, the answer is 2, because Medicaid is administered by the state government and designed for the medically indigent.
But number 1 says Medicaid, I guess authorized and administer, are those saying 2 different things?
Administer.
Let's see here. Medicare is authorized under the federal law.
Medicaid is, yeah. Okay.
Let's see, what's the difference here?
Is Medicare.
Let's see here. Medicare is authorized under federal law, while Medicaid is authorized by individual states. And the federal government administers Medicare, while the states administer Medicaid. So 1 says it's authorized by individual states. So Medicaid can set their boundaries by each state because of the cost of living. So the state administers it, but it's still funding from the government. Okay, so Medicare, the state administers Medicaid. But that is, each state has a difference. And 1 and 2 do sound very similar. I get that. But the answer is 2.
Okay.
Okay. How about 73? A similarity.
Can you scroll up?
I can.
Thank you. I didn't know I had you on.
3.
Well, they're both insurance programs.
What's the difference?
One is Medicare is under federal law. Medicaid is differs by state.
73 is 1. Both Medicare and Medicaid are authorized under the Social Security Act. They're both part of, they both started with the Social Security Act, Medicare and Medicaid. Okay. 74. In most states, the vast majority of children in placement reside where? That is 2. Foster homes. They mostly reside in foster homes. Yeah, you got it. Thanks. 75. In recent years, many states have entrusted the care of dependent or neglected children and social services to their families, primarily to what? So in many years, many states have entrusted the care of dependent or neglected children and social services to their families, primarily to, and it's one, private nonprofit agencies. So what we've seen is that we have contracted those services out. Have you guys seen that in your state? You've got a lot of now private industry, private businesses that come up and are about making money. So private nonprofit. Okay. 76. Eligibility for public assistance is determined by what? To get public assistance, what's it determined by?
Income, financial reserves, family size. 4.
Correct. That is 4. That is the eligibility for criteria for public assistance is need. My income, my family reserves, my family size, and my need. Okay. 77. Workman's compensation is designated to protect families from poverty during a period when the wages of one of the owners are reduced due to work-related injuries. Workman's compensation benefits include what?
A 1?
It is 2.
Well, it's not. I guess it's not. It's not the same as your salary, but
Yeah, well, workman's comp doesn't give you money. If you have additional thing to pay, like Aflac the duck, that may give you cash. Workman's comp takes care of your medical benefits and anything for rehab. Okay, and do you know who pays for workman's comp?
your job.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they fight you. So if something happens, and you're trying to get workman's comp, that sometimes they want to fight you because they're paying for that. It's insurance that they pay in. It's workman's comp. Good.
Oh, so they would use their short-term and long-term disability.
That's cash.
For
exactly.
Cash. Okay.
Workman's comp is just paying for your medical injuries if you ever get hurt at work. Okay. 78. An annual budget process provides evidence of what? Okay, your annual budget, you own an agency, you're a director of an agency. So what does it provide? Okay. 79 is
3.
It's 2. It's 2. Organization guided by policy objectives and clear goals. Your annual budget process provides evidence of what? So the budget is, how we spent the money, and we're looking at, did we follow the agency's rules, and did we set the goals and do what we said we're going to do? Okay. How about 84? Most of the elderly in our nation live where? Where do they live? Number 2, they still live at home. Exactly. And part of the aging, the baby boomers, is really kind of ensuring things that our clients can stay at home. So insurance companies are for profit. They need to make money. They have to prove to their board of directors or stockholders that they can make money. So as baby boomers get older, we are trying to keep them out of nursing homes, because nursing homes cost a whole lot more than being in-home. So what you'll see now is many of the insurance policies will provide things such as they'll pay for like family care. They'll pay for like ramps, so the other people can get into their home, so that's not an option anymore. I've even seen them pay for like pest control, because even all those things putting into a person's home is still cheaper than paying for a nursing home. And insurance companies are really about making money. Okay. 86. Select the statement that best describes the institutional concept of social welfare. What describes the institutional concept of social welfare? '86 is 1. Welfare services are normal first-line functions of a modern society. Okay. And I remind my students often that that is something that is it's very American. There are lots of cultures that don't have that option, right? And so if you don't work, you don't eat. So we provide that for our clients. Our part of being an American, that's universal health care, social welfare. 87. After making a speech on sexual abuse treatment before a community group, a social worker learns that the local newspaper grossly misstated and amplified her qualifications. As a result of the article, a false impression was created, and she received many phone calls from agency asking her to consult to see clients. In this case, social worker should what? What do you do? The paper said that you have all these credentials and maybe you don't. '87 would be 3.
3? Would it be 3?
It is 3. There's an ethical question when the code says clearly that I can't do that. I cannot do that. 86. What are border babies? Anybody know? '88. Border babies. That's 1. They have no families available to care for them. So often what happens is we will drop off the babies. The border means kind of whether or not they are going to make it. They're on the border. Those are my border babies. Okay. 89. A minority couple is unable to obtain a mortgage from a local bank. They learn the specific area have been excluded from their consideration. The practice is known as, and I can tell you, so when we move to this area, the real estate agent in the beginning only showed us local areas of people that looked like me. That is called redlining. Redlining is a practice of banks and insurance companies. Insurance companies. The neighborhood is redlined. That means that many times it's hard to live there because it's hard to get a mortgage because it's redlined. You draw a line. Like you don't want to live in this neighborhood or you don't want to buy a house in this neighborhood. Okie dokie. I'm going to do one more. 94. A social worker receives a referral of a dialysis patient who is emotionally unable to follow through on self-care requirements. The worker has no experience treating clients with these characteristics and little knowledge. Mute yourself if you're talking to someone else, please. Start again. A social worker receives a referral of a dialysis patient who is emotionally unable to follow through on the self-care requirements. The worker has no experience in treating clients with these characteristics and little knowledge of dialysis. Despite the lack of experience, the social worker decides to accept the referral. Which of the statements is most accurate? What do you do when you accept a referral that you don't know enough about?
One.
It's a mistake, an ethical breach of the worker to accept a case for which she is inadequate. I would agree with that. However, she's already accepted it, so she's already said yes. I can't say now I changed my mind. But that is correct. However, the answer is 3.
To accept
it's ethical. The worker is justified in accepting the case only if she plans to pursue the information and skills necessary. That's from the Code of Ethics. Okay. So
If not, question. Not
Hello?
if she hasn't accepted it, would it be the best answer would be to refer the client to a person that has
Exactly.
the expertise?
Exactly. So if you don't know what you're doing, you should not accept the case. Okay. And even in a rural area, if you're the only provider, the code of ethics says if I don't know what I'm doing, I shouldn't accept the case. Okay. So she, at this point, she's already accepted it. So she's stuck. So she has to learn. So the code of ethics says if I've accepted that case and I don't have the skills or the information, it's my job to make sure that I do that. Okay. Good question. Good question. For the test, when it comes to referring out, you cannot refer out just because. If it's a transference issue or a countertransference, if you have some issues between you and the client, that's always a supervisory issue. You can't refer out. The assumption always in the test is you are the best social worker. So you can never refer out because you don't know what to do. You can refer out if it's not your area of expertise, but if it's something that comes up and the client is having an issue with the client or you're having an issue with their belief system, you can never refer out. The assumption is you are the best. Okay. In general, my philosophy is always a couple of things you've probably heard before if you've had the other sessions. We always refer if it is a medical issue or if it is a substance abuse issue. You are never the expert in either of those areas. Even if you are currently a substance abuse counselor, you pretend you know nothing for this test. Okay. Then when it comes to those last questions, I'm always, if it's a possibility, I'm going to assess. But don't always look for the word assess. Look for the word that tells me I'm going to get more information, I'm going to discuss, I'm going to do any of those things. Okay. Questions? Anything else I can answer for you? If you have questions, I'll be here this week up until Friday. Other than that, feel free. What if it's a safety concern? Safety trumps everything. Always. Thank you, Joyce. Safety always trumps everything. However, there are questions when it comes like neglect. There's a question like a 7-year-old comes to school and she is unclean and she's constantly late and she looks disheveled. In that one, I'm going to talk to the parents first because it's not an immediate safety issue. Okay, so that's the one that I'm going to call the parents first. It is a safety issue if someone is a gun in their hand and they have a plan. I'm definitely going to make sure safety is first. When it comes to self-determination, someone who is psychotic or is not able to a non-clinical term, if they're not in their right mind. So if they're having a psychotic episode, if they're having some tangential thoughts, they do not have the right of self-determination. Okay. I have to make that decision. So if it says a client is, walking around the streets and has no idea, who she is and it's cold outside, she's lost her right to self-determination. That's not an option. Ask me more. I don't mind. Take this opportunity. I tutor all day, every day. So ask me some questions.
Well, I'm scheduled to take my exam in a couple of weeks. Any advice? Any suggestions?
So trust your gut. Don't go back and change answers.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't know them, flag them. Don't get caught up in not knowing those answers because what happens is we beat ourselves up. Okay, so we'll ask them, we think, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Skip it, just skip it. There's only so much information. So at some point, you're probably going to read a question that brings it back to you.
Right.
So skip it. But once you've chosen an answer, and you might not always know that you know, but stick with that. For my students, especially the vignettes, I always suggest that you prove it. So go back in the question and just prove it.
Okay.
Can I chime in on that, please?
Please, yes.
I took my test 1st of November, and there was a lot of community planning on there. which I was not expecting a lot of. I did not have a lot of recall, a lot of like what is this or what is that. It's a lot of community planning and what is best and most and first. So just prepare for that. Even though I know the tests are all different, it
Which
was
test
definitely
did you take? Which one
which
did you
test did I
take?
take?
Yes.
The
She's a
MSW,
I'm sorry.
the MSW, the
The
Master
clinical?
Service Test. No, no,
Okay.
no, 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 no. The license.
You
I'm
took the
sorry, the
masters?
license,
So,
the
in
first one.
general, from what I hear from most of my students is the clinical test definitely has more of the clinical questions, the diagnosis, and the treatment. But my student
Okay.
who took it last weekend, and this was her second time taking it, she was surprised with the vignettes. And that
Okay.
seems to be the majority. And I've heard between 60 and 75%, depending on what test you take. But
Mhm.
most often, what we're looking for is not do you know the information, but can you take it and then put it in real use? So not just kind of knowledge, but can you apply that?
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm
This
gonna.
will be my third time taking the clinical, but I took it like 4 years ago. And you said
Okay.
something about PTSD. I feel like I was traumatized by it. So I just sat it to the side. And now I'm like, okay, you've held me hostage long enough. Let me, let me,
So
let
what
me
have
see
you
what I can
done differently? I always, my students, and I many times I have students who've taken the test 7 or 8 times. I'm like, what have you done differently?
I'll be honest. First thing I did was I went to therapy.
Okay.
Worked through my own head because of the guilt and feeling just crazy.
Okay.
So this time what I did differently was again I did social work to social work. I
Okay.
tried to find something concrete instead of me just reading.
Okay. Very good.
I
Very
tried
good.
to find something. I'm kind of I am a visual learner.
Very good.
I also thank you first of all for reaching out to me the other day because I appreciate that. I've been watching like the Philip Luttrell videos, just
Mhm.
trying to learn how to break the questions down. So I've been focusing a lot on trying to learn how to break the questions down and the Don Epgar book.
Very good. Don Apgar book is great for content, and Philip Luttrell. Just personally, I can't remember those acronyms in my head, like all the steps. That's
Yeah,
hard
no,
for
I
me.
can't do
So I
no.
always just say assess, assess,
Right,
assess, assess, assess before act. And whether it's
right.
a first, next, last, if there's an opportunity for me to ask more questions, I'm going to
Mhm.
assess. And my analogy I always use is I go to the doctor's office tomorrow. I tell him I have a headache, and he says, "Okay, Pam, here's like 60 hydros. Hello, like come on, ask me some more questions." So
So
always, if the option is to assess, take that option. And not I'm always looking for assess. I'm looking for, the assess that matches that question.
okay.
Let's see. I'm going to do just I got like a couple
Yeah,
questions
because
here.
the acronyms don't in between him and like Bridget Montgomery, I've been following her. So watching some of her stuff.
And again, I love them both. I know them both. In my head,
I
I
got
don't have enough room for that. That's just me. I
right.
don't
I got
pretend.
you.
Can you see my
Like
screen
you said,
number
I'm just trying a different approach. That's all.
124? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So an application at a social service agency requests help in locating a larger appointment for the family. In the initial discussion with the social worker, it becomes obviously the marital difficulties are also a major concern. What do I do first? This is a typical first
Yeah.
question. And if you know this
Is it-
answer from other students, don't answer. It's a first
Okay.
question. Okay. So what I always suggest first is rule out.
You're gonna rule out B.
Okay.
You're gonna rule out that D.
Okay. So now I'm down to you ruled out A and D.
A and C are what we're down to.
I'm sorry, you ruled out B and I just can't hear you. You ruled out what? B and
An applicant and a service agent request. 'Cause, 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 'cause difficulties are.
Anybody else can help her too. I don't mind, really.
I had said D, give the person a list of real estate brokers.
No.
No, because they're looking.
Who said no and why?
I am thinking
Be
assess.
brave.
I'm thinking discussing the presenting problem.
What's the presenting problem then?
Is the marital difficulties.
Repeat.
The marriage?
She said the marital difficulties.
Is that the presenting problem? What'd you
No,
show up
It's
for?
the apartment. They
Exactly.
came up with the apartment. That's what
Exactly.
they
So whatever the presenting problem is, that's what I'm doing. She's the applicant of social service agency, a larger application for the family. The initial discussion, I've just met her. She said, by the way,
Right.
I've got some marital issues. Girl, you came to me to find a place to live.
Place to
That's all
live.
I can do.
Right.
Okay. So
Right.
exactly.
It's
First,
good.
she's sitting in front of me. She's talking to me. She needs a place to live. She needs this. I'm going to do with the presenting problem first. So the answer is A. And I see that as a assess question, an assess answer. Discuss the presenting problem.
Okay.
So to me, that's what she's there for. And I'm going to do that. Okay. Let's look at number 128. A client tells a social worker that he has recently participated in a violent criminal act and plans to repeat the offense. What do you do?
Don't increase the sessions.
It might kill me too, right? What
Right.
do I do?
D, report the intent according
Exactly.
to jurisdiction.
And why?
Because he's saying that he has a plan to
He's going to
repeat the offense.
repeat the offense, right? If it happened already, do I share that?
It's-
If he committed a criminal act before he came to see me and he tells me that, do I share that?
Yes.
I don't if somebody was. I think it depends on what it was.
Okay. So the rule is if he's going to hurt himself or someone else, that's the rule. If he
Right.
did it already, I cannot share that. The confidentiality is very clear. He's going to hurt himself or he's going to hurt someone else. Other than that, I cannot share. The only stipulation with that is if it's a child and I have reason to believe he would hurt the child again. Okay, but that's still hurting someone else in the future or, hurting himself. Other than that, confidentiality applies. Okay. We got number 132. Which of the following activities most accurately measures client progress in social work treatment? How do I know if they've improved?
Not B.
Okay.
A.
That is correct. Comparing his current level of function in relation to his original treatment goal. You got it. Okay. Let's look at 135. A nursing home social worker is responsible for assisting clients in maintaining relationships with family. Social worker learns that a resident's family member recently disciplined a child with spanking and left marks. What do you do?
You make a report.
Exactly. I'm a mandated reporter. Whether or not it's my client, whether or not it's a child I'm seeing, if this happened, I'm a mandated reporter. If I'm at the Walmart and I see this happen, I'm a mandated reporter, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if I have any way of having, if I can call the police right there and have them come, but I'm a mandated reporter. This is a common question on termination. 137, a community mental health social worker has a client who's ignored 4 written requests regarding payment for services rendered. The social worker plans to inform the client of the decision to proceed with termination for non-payment for the next scheduled session. Before proceeding with termination, what should I do first?
Not B.
Okay.
Can you scroll up a little bit, please? I can't see.
This way or up?
Yeah,
That is okay?
the other way.
The other way.
There you go.
Somebody's scraping dishes.
I know.
Just mute yourself. Or
See,
come wash my dishes. Exactly. C. Okay. Make certain the client fully understands the details of the payment. What if he shows up and he's he hasn't paid his payment? We've talked about it, and he tells me he's suicidal. What do I have to do?
Crazy.
I have to keep him. I have to keep him.
Yeah.
you have to keep him because he's unsafe.
Exactly. I have to keep him. I cannot let him go. Okay. Let's look at 142. Just mute yourself. I don't mind if your kids are in the background. Just please mute yourself. 142. Social worker is counseling a client who is tested positive for HIV. The client admits to not informing his sexual partners of the diagnosis. What do you do first?
A.
You got it. I'm going to encourage him. Okay. I can't inform his partners. I can't contact the local authorities. And I take the opportunity to discuss AIDS prevention. May happen later, but I'm really going to try to. So there has not been a federal statute that says whether or not that's a imminent danger. So many times the question will be follow your local laws or follow your agency's policy regarding HIV. Okay. $145. Practicing in a jurisdiction that grants social workers privileged communication when the social worker can what? Privileged communication status.
Contest.
I was going to see.
See, you got it. You got it. So when I get a court order, what do I do with the court order?
I'm sorry. Repeat that.
If I get a court order, what do I do? Order from the court. What do I do?
You advocate for the client?
Am I going to ignore a court order?
No, you can't
No.
ignore.
Can't ignore it.
I cannot. I am not going to jail for any client ever. When I go to jail, it's because I committed a crime, not them. Okay, so I'm not going to jail. So a subpoena is most often, unless it says court-ordered subpoena, then I'm not doing it. Then I'll follow that. But a subpoena is most often from the attorney. So when a subpoena is an invitation, I don't have to answer. I'm going to answer because that's what I should do. Okay. But a court order, I'm going to say to the judge, this is privileged communication, and I'm going to try to limit the scope so he doesn't, all the information is not out there. What about, what's my train of thought there? What's the rule? What's the code of ethics say about a client and his records?
That if the client can see their records or not.
What's the law? What's the code of ethics say?
You get the consent from the client to
see their own records. The client, they want to see their own records.
They should be able to see their own
if it's not harming them, you have to give it to them.
Okay, and if it is harming them, what's it say?
And you limit what you share with them.
Or I have the right also to just say no. If there's anything in the records that I think is harmful to them, the Code of Ethics says that I have the right to limit what they see to all or none of the records. Okay? So if I think the information they'll misunderstand or not understand, I'll call them in and we'll go over it together. But if there's something in there that I think is harmful or detrimental, I have the right to limit the what they can see, all or none. However, it does have to be what? Documented. I have to document. Okay. What about psychotherapy notes? Can they just get those?
No.
You have
Isn't it the same premise?
You have to specifically request them. So if the judge says he wants to see your notes, unless it specifically requests psychotherapy notes, you do not send them. Psychotherapy notes are keeping them in a separate place is just extra protection for our client. Okay. Let's look at 150. Social worker is developing policies that will support the service delivery to people who are disadvantaged. The first action I should take is what? My first action.
The person who are disadvantaged.
Who's washing dishes? The answer to 150 is...
I'm not sure.
Answer to 150 is C. I'm sorry, D.
Okay.
D. Conduct analysis of the problem experienced by the population. So that's a community action. Okay. So I want to ensure policies are committed to social justice. So the first thing I'm going to do is to find out what the problems are. The first action. Is that not still an assess problem, a question?
Yes.
Okay. And don't get confused, because sometimes they will use the word assess because they know that you're taught to look for assess. But assess, probe, look, conduct analysis. I want to know as much information as I can. That's my first. How about 151? A hospital social worker meets with a family after a member is critically injured in a coma. The family informs the social worker that the patient has a same-sex life partner and they do not want this person involved in the patient's case. The life partner later arrives and asks the social worker about the patient. What do I do?
I can't see it.
Okay. The family says to the social worker, we don't want him involved. So what do you do?
To determine who can legally.
Yes, because I'm going to assess.
Right.
I'm not going to refer. I'm not going to inform. I'm just going to assess. I need to find out if they're telling me the truth. Good. 152. Social worker assists a client who recently had a job loss and is seeking job placement counseling. Social worker concludes that the client is coping very well, drawing on internal qualities. In the psychodynamic theory, Freud, that's what I'm hearing, right? The qualities are referred to as what?
A?
Yes, my ego strengths. You got it, okay? Psychodynamic and psychoanalytic for the test are used interchangeably. When I think of psychodynamic, I think of anything internal, my id, my ego, all those good things. Okay? Freud was he believed that he was the expert, and he only treated women, mainly treated women. So, think of these poor, dumb women who didn't know anything better because Freud told them what to do. Okay. Until like Carl Rogers came along, who was a humanitarian. Carl Rogers used a client-centered approach where the client was the expert. But prior to that, we had Freud and Carl Jung and all those good things. Okay. 153. Child protection social worker and a client are working toward return of the client's children to the home. The client and the social worker mutually agree on a plan. The client states a desire for the children to return, but does not follow through. What do you do? What do you do first?
C.
Because
they had already made a plan, which was agreed upon.
And I want to assess what's going on exactly before I act, if at all possible, whether it's first, next, or last. If ask more questions is an option, I'm going to do that. I want to make sure I know everything possible before I act. Good, very good. How about this one? Cultural question. During an initial interview, a Native American First Nation client makes only brief eye contact and speaks softly with little apparent affect. Affect, of course, is the look on my face or my mood. The social worker most likely can attribute this behavior to what?
C.
You got it. That's a cultural issue. And I suggest that you, if you don't know the culturally bound syndromes, look at those. Amok, A-M-O-K, running amok, or brain fag. Those are two pretty recent ones, or two pretty I've seen on tests, or I've heard they've been on tests recently. So you might want to make sure that you look at the culturally bound syndromes. Okay. Let's see here. Number 155. During an initial session with the client, the social worker realizes the client recently ended a romantic relationship with another client. Neither client knows that the other is receiving services from the social worker. The social worker is unsure if providing therapy to both clients is ethical. After the social worker reviews the ethical standards, what else should she do to resolve the issue?
C.
You got it. You got it. 156. A social worker at a domestic violence center receives permission to provide a pilot program for treatment of batterers. A review of the literature indicates that a psychoeducational group is the most appropriate approach. What is the next step? What should she do next?
A.
Yes. Okay, create a plan to measure the effectiveness of the group because I'm going to assess.
Right.
I want to know how well this works, right? I've read the literature, I've read the reviews. It sounds pretty good, but I still want to know how well it works.
What did you say 155 was?
155 was... 155 was C.
Okay.
Okay. 158. Social worker is concerned that a therapeutic group is not developing cohesion. This prevents the opportunity for more intense work. The social worker decides to use several trust-building activities within the group. What should she do first? She's going to assess. It's the first question. Which is the closest thing to assess?
Identify the group members most willing to take risks.
Perhaps.
Talk with the group about concerns with taking risks.
Yes. C. Talk with the group first. Okay. And actually, A is an assess question. Identify the group members most willing to take risks. But I don't know if she knows that yet.
Right. Okay.
Right. So we're still pretty early.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't assume that she knows that. What are my stages of group?
Oh gosh. Isn't it inform?
I'm going to first.
I can see it.
Affiliation.
Affiliation would be Yalom, and Yalom does use those terms. Most often we use Tuckman in so that would be norming, forming.
Forming.
Performing.
Yes,
Adjourning.
you got it. So and you were right. So if we Yalom, and I haven't seen that a lot in the social work class, the test is Yalom, and he does like making sure that you have therapeutic alliance and you have an orientation first. He talks about universality, all those good things. But most often what we see on the test is this one.
Form and storming. Okay.
So in the beginning, we're just forming. I invited everybody to group, and then we're storming. Everybody's trying to figure out who sits where and who speaks the most and who does that. We norm the rules. And again, the group norms the rules, then they perform, and then it's time to go. Okay. And the group process is like an individual. The group is seen as one. What happens in group stays in group. A client calls you outside a group, you say what?
Have to bring it back to the group.
Exactly. Discuss it next time we have group. We'll bring it up then. The same with marriage and family. With a marriage, you got a couple, they're still seen as one. He calls you and he wants to tell you something on the side. You say,
has to come back to the couple.
You
session.
got it. You got it. Bring it back. We'll bring it up next time. There are no secrets. Exactly. Okay. Let's see here. What was doing? I was doing this one. Close some windows here. Do you have any questions you want to ask me?
No, but I appreciate everything tonight. This was great.
Not a problem. Not a problem. That was my pro bono work for the year because the Code of Ethics says that we should, right?
Right.
Any other questions? I'm going to ask you just a couple things. So how about my personality disorders? What do we know those? Antisocials are?
Where are we?
And I didn't. I was just in general. What are my antisocials? What do they look like?
Criminal background, that type behavior.
You got it. Our personality disorders, ego-syntonic or ego-dystonic?
Oh.
Say it loud. They're ego-syntonic. My personality disorders are ego-syntonic. That is in sync with who I am. So they are not coming for treatment. Okay. So if it's ego-dystonic, I don't like it, and I'll come. I remember that because I will say, I don't like this, D-I-S, I don't like this, so I'll come. So our ego, according to Freud, we had our id, which was our pleasure principle. I want. My super ego says, no, Bam, no, you can't. And then my ego is what rationalizes all that out. That's who I am, is my ego. So ego psychology says you work with my ego. So syntonic, or I'm good with that. So if I'm, if this is like I'm histrionic, I'm fine. My narcissist, I'm fine. That's who I am. Don't change me. That's ego syntonic. In sync, I don't know if you have your car, you can sync your heat to both sides, S-Y-N-C. You can sync your phone. So that means it's okay with me. However, dystonic is I don't like this, D-I-S. I don't like this. So that is when I'm going to come for therapy because I don't like this. Okay. So personality disorders are ego-syntonic. That's why they don't come for treatment. The goal is to make them ego-alien because it's really comfortable with my ego. So I'm going to make it ego-alien so it's uncomfortable with who I am. Okay. Okay, guys, I gotta go because I got another session coming up. Believe it or not. Other
Thank
questions?
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do
Thank
you
you.
have a Facebook page?
I do. Are you not
Thank
following me on
you.
Facebook?
Okay.
I will give you. I'll put my link in there. But yeah, you can follow me on Facebook. I post lots of free stuff on my Facebook page. I'm gonna line up there. Let me just kind of share again. I'll see if I can see my camera. Make you in front of me again. There you go.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And I will. Let's see here. Send it to my Facebook page. It is. It's called Academic Coaching for World Changers. And I put lots of stuff on there. And all of you, if here, let me give you my phone number, 423-645-6265. That is I'll give my phone number in there. I'm really okay with that. Especially if you have a question and you're in the moment and you don't understand why, you feel free to text me. I can't promise you'll answer you right away because I'm a lot busy. But I'll do everything I can to answer that. And if it's a question that I think other people might really enjoy or need the answer to, I'll actually usually do a video. So if you follow me on YouTube as well, I kind of like to do videos. It makes it easier. And for my people who are auditory learners, videos are a lot easier. Like I said before, this one will actually be a YouTube video as well. And I'll send you a link. It'll be in the end of this chat box when we're done, if you want to go back and watch it. But that is my Facebook. Okay. And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I'll be in town until Friday. I am fully booked, but if you have a question, I'll try to answer it, especially if your test is coming soon. I will be. The reason that we cruise is because that's the only time in the only week out of the year I don't work because I can't. So I've learned my self-care needs to be where I'm on a ship where the internet is not workable because that way I don't work. Okay. It's been a pleasure. And I will, again, my phone number is in there. If you have any questions, if you have a question for me specifically, if not, I wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays for my, yeah. Have a great time, guys.
You too. Have a safe trip.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.